Hi, my name's Larry Hentz. I'm the Executive Director of Business Development for the Prince George's County Economic Development Corporation, and also the host of Business Spotlight. Today, we're going to meet with Cloudforce. Come, let's go learn something. Hussein, thank you very much for inviting us in today. First question for our audience. What do you do here at Cloudforce?
So Cloudforce is a consulting firm based here in National Harbor, and we help primarily mid to large size organizations, commercial organizations, to strategize and adopt complex cloud technologies, primarily Microsoft's cloud technologies. Cloudforce has been in business for 12 years now, but I've been in the consulting industry for 17 personally.
I read your bio, and I find it very interesting that, if I remember correctly, I read when you were a child, you used to take things apart and put them back together again.
Yep.
I would think that would have led to some contention in your house sometimes. But I'm more curious about the idea of you as a young man. Did you feel that what you were doing was unique or special in any kind of way of doing that? Or was a lot of that going on in your area, in your neighborhood?
I think special, probably no. Although I didn't necessarily think it was weird. I just had a lot of time on my hands and I was very curious. And so anytime I saw something mechanical that I didn't understand, which was pretty much everything in the house at a certain point, I just wanted to understand how it worked and why it worked.
What was the biggest thing in your house that you took apart and put back together?
Vacuum cleaner, for sure. And that was the one of probably the most contention for my mother when she found out that I took it apart. And she was curious if I could get it back together. And I did get it back together, but there was probably couple gears extra at the very end, but it worked. It did work. So anything I could get my hands on that was mechanical, I would rip it apart.
So do you still tinker like that?
I do, but not as much. I just don't have as much time. Now it's more kind of tinkering in the virtual world. So building very complex architectures for customers, helping them to kind of whiteboard out solutions. I spend a lot more time doing that. Although I wish I could do more things with my hands, so maybe one day when I have more time, I'll build a garage of my dreams and start ripping cars apart again. I
remember also, as part of your bio, you, at the age of 18, started working at Booz Allen Hamilton?
That's correct, yeah.
And you did not have a college degree?
No.
All right.
No.
When you look back on it, what was your biggest advantage?
I think just a stubborn tenacity to figure things out. I'm a bit of a workaholic by nature, and so if there's a problem that I can't solve, I'm not gonna drop it until it gets solved, even if that means I'm working, till 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Like, I just have this burning need to fix things, whether it's a technological thing or a business problem. And so I think that enabled me to sort of leapfrog a lot of my colleagues who at 5 o'clock, they would, clock out and go to the bar and have fun and do their thing. And I would still be in the office, not because I had to be, just because I wanted to be. So I think that was an advantage, although I don't know that I would recommend being a workaholic to most people.
Well, what was the biggest disadvantage? I heard you say that you learned a lot.
I think the biggest hurdle for me was just the perception of, you don't have the credentials, you don't have the experience, you don't have the years of, I guess, miles on the tires, as people would say. And so to earn the respect of people that were much older and much more seasoned, to actually have a voice at the table where people would listen and take me seriously was a hurdle for a long time. It's still a hurdle sometimes today, but less so, I guess, when you have a legitimate business and some credentials, business credentials. But it's still a perception thing that I have to overcome.
It kind of ties back to what you said earlier about you see something mechanical and you want to know how it works. And the other part is you have to finish things and correct them, fix problems with those, or complete the task. So there you are at Booz Allen Hamilton, having some concerns, but unlike some of us, you didn't quit. you turned it into a positive and stay with it, like you do in putting back the vacuum cleaner that your mother wanted to know if you could do.
Yep. Yeah, I think tenacity is probably the most useful trait or skill that I've applied in business.
Tenacity?
Tenacity, yeah.
Yes. I'm curious, do you hire here young people who do not have a degree but have that tenacity?
That's definitely a place where we look. I have a soft spot for underdogs. I think I have the underdog story, and so I definitely have a soft spot for underdogs who don't necessarily have, the pedigree or the parents that could put them in the best schools or get them the best education necessarily. But if they have a desire to learn, and if they work hard, and if they show up, and if they are willing to put in the effort, then we can work with them. Because you can teach anyone the technical bits. What you can't teach people is respect, to show up on time, to dress the part, to do the work when no one's looking, right? And do the right thing when no one's looking, and to have integrity. Those are far more difficult things to teach.
I would think that they have to bring those things here or any workplace and have them already.
Yeah, and I think a lot of employers would call those things soft skills.
Yeah.
But to us, that's the first hurdle. If you can't pass that hurdle, then we're not looking at your certifications, your degree, anything on your resume. If you can't have a conversation like this, like we're having right now, professionally and with respect and with confidence, then it's going to be a difficult uphill battle in consulting, specifically technology consulting, the type of work that we do. And so that's the first thing that we look for.
The preconceived notion is someone that's in IT spends more time with technology than they do with people. I'll admit that's my preconceived notion. So, but I just heard you say you expect them to have these so-called soft skills and be able to communicate and have conversations. Am I wrong here that a lot of people in IT are more comfortable with the technology than they are with people?
That is accurate, and that is definitely a stereotype for a reason, and it is true that most technologists, especially the ones that are very good, are not necessarily the people that you would want to have a beer with, because they may not be the most social or outgoing, and they may have issues tamping down their ego. But I think that that's our secret sauce. Everyone asks how we've been so successful and what our secret sauce is. It's having technologists that are not only good at what they do, but that can have a conversation like this and can go into a boardroom and have a business conversation with executives who don't necessarily care about the nuts and bolts. What they care about is the business, and their business is not typically technology.
Which I agree with you. Okay, I like this a lot. There's another thing that I read about you that I find very interesting, which is, unlike most companies decide what they're going to offer in products or services, and then they look for companies to just provide those to them. You take a different approach. Here at Cloudforce, you take a very different approach. You spend time understanding long-term goals and the people that will be actually using your technology before you come up with your various solutions for them. Now, it's such a simplistically brilliant idea. I'm honestly wondering why more companies don't do it. But for the purpose of our conversation, I'm curious, where did that start with you, that you would take this, for lack of a better word, consultative approach to a commercial business?
Well, I think having worked in big consulting, I got to see different sides of consulting.
Okay.
So I think that there's, what's traditionally called IT consulting, which is oftentimes not really consulting. It's more staff augmentation. It's more, for lack of a better word, butts in seats of people to do the engineering work.
Right.
That's not really consultative in the sense that they're not actually having the business conversation with the business people, right? They are taking directions to say, implement this thing, and they go off and implement it and come back, and maybe it works or maybe it doesn't, and maybe it was the wrong thing in the first place.
Right.
But they never ask those questions. The other side of the consulting paradigm is management consulting, which is far more strategic. It's far more business oriented, right? Talking about risk and budget and compliance and answering to the board and shareholders, right? But most of those firms don't really focus on execution, right? They're also very expensive and they're very complex to engage with. And so what we try to do is marry the two of having a strategic consultative approach, but also being able to execute on that strategy once the customer agrees that that makes sense for their business.
I'm curious, when you enter into the process with a potential business, do they recognize that your approach is unique in how you're going about creating their solution?
I think the proof is in the pudding, because unfortunately with what we do, a lot of companies say the right things, and they all say, you know, they have the secret sauce of the best people and the best culture and the best approach and the most certifications, but the proof's in the pudding. And so our sort of recipe for success is get in with just a small engagement, just something so that we can show them what we can do and how we do it. And from there it balloons. It always does. It never fails. We can start with one tiny project and, you know, a month or two later we're migrating their entire data center infrastructure to the cloud.
Wow. Is there a particular success story you can share with me now that really exemplifies who you are here at Cloudforce?
Yeah, I think there's one in particular that is sort of near and dear to all of our hearts here, and that's Prince George's Community College. So we've been engaged in various ways with the community college for years, from everything from helping them to sort of guide curriculum, to working with interns coming out of the college, to actually providing some services back to the college in terms of technology strategy. And during the pandemic, I had a conversation with their leadership, and they said they had this huge issue with students actually dropping out because they just didn't have the right equipment. So we said, what can we do? So obviously we have some unique skills in technology, and we have some unique relationships with technology vendors. So we decided to try to raise the money to buy laptops for these students, leveraging our relationships with hardware vendors to get them at a discount. And
just so that I make sure I hear what you're saying here, the community college was a client.
Community college was a client.
And you uncovered a need that didn't pertain to your business model per se.
Right.
But it does pertain to your culture.
Pertains to our culture, and I also do think that in some ways it does feed into our business model, although it's a much more long-term vision, right? Because the folks coming out of the community college will be our future employees, hopefully, right? And so they need to, one, stay enrolled, and two, stay enrolled in technology, right? With the right technology to actually do that coursework. And so we felt the need to get involved, and we ultimately raised enough money, both from our own funds as well as partner funds, to buy 100 laptops for students to keep them enrolled.
Wow. That really warms my heart, because I actually am a graduate of Prince George's Community College. And it was because of the very support that I received there. Not only did I get my associate's degree, I was able to go on, take that degree, and get my BSBA from American University. And education can make a very big difference in the life of someone. And the fact that you didn't just say, that sounds interesting, and make a call. You actually did that thing you talked about in the beginning. You continued to let it pick at it until you were able to put it together, get it to a place where it worked. So 100 lives you had some influence on. And
that's the hope.
That's the hope.
But you're a perfect example of why that's important. Because you are the success story that we're trying to create. And although I may not have had that experience, you know, coming out of school and going straight into the workforce, I would have wanted that experience. I unfortunately didn't have that option. But that doesn't mean that I would, you know, go against that option for those that are given that option.
Right, that's interesting.
Well, it all comes full circle too, because actually now Prince George's Community College is doing even more work with us. We're helping to implement all sorts of cybersecurity tools and controls, and helping them to migrate systems to the cloud. And so, you know, it is very much a symbiotic relationship between us and the rest of the community.
Well, from my interactions in the corporate world here in the county, the reputation of the community college is good and solid, specifically, and one of the areas is in IT. So thank you for playing a role in that.
I hope to continue to build on it.
Tell me something about Cloudforce that we can't learn from reading your press or on the internet or your website, but you would want people to know about Cloudforce.
I think the thing that you can't see in the press or in the awards or in, the website, as much as we try to, demonstrate it, is just the magic of being here. I think you got to see that today just by stepping in here and, sitting down and having conversations and watching people having, not only collaborative conversations about work, but playing ping pong and talking about, things that they're going to be doing this weekend and creating those personal relationships and trust. I think that really is the secret ingredient. And part of that is being in the same physical space with each other at times, not necessarily every day, but enough so that people have conversations that are not only related to the work task at hand.
Excellent. And I'm going to take you up on that because this is a very cool space. And I remember you telling me before we started this interview that you play a little ping pong.
I do play a little ping pong. Stereotypical nerd.
Okay, well, I never thought playing ping pong is a nerd, but I play ping pong too. So one of these days.
We're both nerds.
Yes, we are. So I won't argue with that at all. So tell me, what's next for Cloudforce?
I think what's next for Cloudforce is, not necessarily some groundbreaking thing that, is going to make the news. It's amplifying what we're doing and doing more of it. And so that means everything from getting involved with more of the educators, more of the universities here in Maryland, more students, more interns, more staff that we can hire locally as much as possible, and more local clients. And so it's very much more of what made us great and what's gotten us here. And we hope to continue to do that right here in Prince George's.
You seem to have a wonderful affinity for Prince George's County. Can you tell me why that is and why you placed your business here in Prince George's County?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I actually grew up in Northern Virginia, and I started the business originally in Northern Virginia. And I moved it to the county after I personally moved to the county because I see the county as sort of an underdog also. I see it as an area that has a ton of potential and a ton of opportunity, and there's really no reason why we shouldn't capitalize on that as the business community, as the tech community. The proximity to DC, the proximity to all these resources, there's really no reason why this should not be the next tech hub in the DC area. And so if no one else is going to do it, then I'm going to come and try. And that's what I'm doing here. And that's why I'm, part of the Technology Council and trying to lead that council here in the county and grow that and attract other tech businesses and startups to really take Prince George's serious.
How has the county been of support and help to you in your endeavors here in the county?
Yeah, the county, honestly, I think we benefit from being big fish, small pond in this situation, right? Because there isn't a ton of tech companies here that are making as much noise as we are. We actually get a ton of support. And it's been great working with your team and working with Employ Prince George's, FSC First, and really all the organizations here. The Chamber as well has been super supportive because they see the need and they want to invest in companies that are doing the right things with hiring locally and really investing in the workforce. So we've had a ton of support. Obviously, there's still some ways that we can educate our partners on the government side on how they can better support tech companies because, areas like Northern Virginia have a bit more of a mature ecosystem, having benefited from, the data center boom of the 90s and 2000s. But there's no reason why that can't be, Prince George's next.
Don't disagree at all. I just want to say again, thank you for your time, especially someone that is responsible for such a large and interesting company. Not only that, I'm really grateful you've provided me the opportunity to come into this space. And I do plan on coming back and, as you say, hang out for a while from time to time.
Well, you owe me a ping pong match, so.
Don't tempt me now.
No, I appreciate you guys taking the time to come down and to see it for yourselves. And obviously, you're always welcome.
Thank you very much. Again, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Wow, wasn't that great? To spend time here at Cloudforce, talk to Hussein, and learn about a company that is not only profitable, but being part of our community here in Prince George's County. I gotta tell you, I truly enjoyed myself, and I hope you did too. I do want to remind you to continue to follow us on all social media platforms and pgcedc.com. Until next time, let's keep the business spotlight on.